Many of you have seen this ugly face in the news in the last year. 51-year-old trans inmate Tremaine Carroll, who was arrested for actually assaulting other women, removed from women's prison to a men's prison after raping a female cellmate in the bathroom. So it looks familiar. Did y'all know that he's suing Puff Daddy, Sean Diddy Combs? Yes, he is. Add him to the list of the many, many people that are suing Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Diddy Love Combs. Tremaine Carroll is also the cousin of Orlando Brown, the person that was assaulted by Tupac Shakur. And he also claims that he was, quote unquote, hired by Diddy to off Suge Knight after getting details about Tupac's offing from him in jail. This is a very interesting story, so please stick around. So Tremaine Carroll, who's currently incarcerated, filed a lawsuit 9/18/2024 in the California Central District Court. And I'm not sure who wrote this out because it's saying here that he is hearing, mobility, and vision impaired. So the complaint starts like this. Plaintiff Carroll, who's a black ADA, hearing, mobility, vision impaired trans woman falsely imprisoned in the California Department of Corrections on her 27th year of 25 to life under California 3-time law for a non-violent, non-serious aiding grand theft conviction, in which the person, Corvan Cooper, who she's accused of aiding, got probation and no jail time. Plaintiff's 2 prior strikes are from 1 juvenile conviction, contends that her civil rights were violated by defendants individually, collectively, in their individual and official capacities. Plaintiff elects to name additional defendants rather than leave them as Doe defendants, including but not limited to LA County Juvenile Probation Department and staff, Joseph Gothel's Legal, the Justice Firm, Joseph Virgilio, Christopher Darden, Nelson Hunt. Y'all know Christopher Darden was on the prosecution side of the O.J. Simpson trial. I'm sure that's the same one. We don't know too many Christopher Dardens. A.W. De La Cruz, KVSP Wharton, Sergeant Waters, a whole list of people. Child Protective Services, CIW Warren, Department of Children and Family Services, YouTube, Daily Mail, CBS, Fox, The Jumper, Shade Room, Reddit, etc. I hope you don't add my name on here. So anyway, I guess all of these people violated his rights. That's what he's claiming. Here are the facts. In 1996, after being released from California Youth Authority, He-Man G. Stark's youth training school plaintiff was introduced to bad boy CEO Sean Diddy Combs by plaintiff's NBA star cousin Chris Doe and his best friend Dion Doe after a party hosted by another NBA star, Paul Doe. Sean Diddy Combs needed security in the LA area as this was the height of the East Coast, West Coast Tupac Biggie war. Plaintiff introduced Sean Diddy Combs, Biggie Smalls, and other bad boy members to her cousin, Orlando Anderson, who was assaulted by Tupac Shakur and members of the Death Row Records, including Travion Lane, who plaintiff had provided protection for in youth authority. So he was 23 at the time. And just getting fresh out of this youth training school, he was introduced to Sean Diddy Combs. Wow. All right, all about who you know. So that's very interesting. It's saying here that Tremaine Carroll introduced Diddy to her cousin, Orlando Anderson. So when was Orlando assaulted by Tupac after he was introduced to Diddy and Biggie Smalls? I know some of y'all out there have dug very deep into this, so if you know, let me know. All right, so later, Sean Diddy Combs invited plaintiff to hang out in Studio City, where defendant Combs, drugged, surprise, surprise, and actually assaulted plaintiff. Another surprise, right? Plaintiff Carroll had been taken advantage of by her stepmom from ages 5 to 13 and by LA County Juvenile Probation staff at Los Padrinos, Silman East Lake Camp, Miracoma Camp Kilpatrick, and CYA, and was attempting to get her life together as the starting point guard for Golden West Junior College in Westminster, California. Plaintiff's grape trauma syndrome was triggered with no one to turn to and no one to trust. In December of 1996, she was 23 years old at the time. Plaintiff was falsely arrested for a robbery that defendant Combs hired an attorney to get dismissed. However, plaintiff was returned to custody where she learned CDCR was not only falsely labeling her a ex-offender, but falsely claiming that one of the two alleged victims in her two-strike case was a minor, so they labeled her with a lewd and lascivious act against a minor. Plaintiff was the only minor involved. Plaintiff suffered physical, sexual abuse from staff and inmates as a result of these false R labels. Okay. At 20-something years old, she was... Wow, okay. A year later, plaintiff was released after getting no treatment from CDCR. In August 1998, plaintiff was arrested for robbery, in which Sean Diddy Combs provided the money for bail after being contacted by plaintiff's cousin. Okay. On 9/10/98, plaintiff's bail was revoked for no reason. While in LA County Jail, corrupt deputies falsely charged plaintiff with possession of a weapon after learning plaintiff was labeled a CM. Plaintiff was found guilty of aiding grand theft property and was sentenced to 25 to life after sentencing judge used false actual allegations that plaintiff was found not guilty of to determine sentencing, and plaintiff's attorney refused to bring up childhood trauma plaintiff suffered because plaintiff was labeled CM. My goodness. Plaintiff entered CDCR in December of 1999. So she was 25. Falsely labeled a CM, ex-offender with an R suffix, and this caused plaintiff to be subjected to untold physical, actual, psychological, ABUSE by staff and inmates, revisiting in falsified RVRs, denial of programming opportunities, unequal protection, unequal treatment, etc. In 2018 to 2019, plaintiff had to allow Dr. Claybo at Salinas Valley State Prison to grape her in order to start gender dysphoria treatment. Are you kidding me? And transition to womanhood documentation. Later at Richard J. Donovan in San Diego, plaintiff was actually abused by Sergeant Godinez and Dr. Cauldron. Then, while housed in RGD ASU solitary confinement, plaintiff was left handcuffed in her wheelchair for 3 days. So how did they go from being on a basketball team to being in a wheelchair? This led to multiple lawsuits and plaintiff becoming inmate number 1 in Armstrong versus Newsom that got body cameras implemented in CDCR and District Court Judge Claudia Wilkins to grant restraining order against CDCR for plaintiff. Okay, well, that was a win. RJD staff CO Sanchez, CO Correctional Officer Rucker, and others falsified RVRs and had plaintiff busted in the head with a boulder that shouldn't have been on any prison yard. Plaintiff was again falsely imprisoned in solitary confinement when RJD hiring authority approached plaintiff with a cell phone and phone number. Plaintiff called the number and it was Sean Diddy Combs telling plaintiff Marcus Pollard is family. Leave solitary confinement and it's all good. Defendant Pollard told plaintiff they needed me to go back to a facility with Suge Knight and get all the information I could on the on the schmurder of Tupac Shakur. I had a relationship with Suge Knight and wrote a song for a documentary that Nick Cannon was supposed to be doing. This is so interesting. When I got back on a facility, I was contacted by Defendant Combs on the same cell phone. Defendant Combs told me after I got all the info I could out of Suge Knight, after I got all the info out of Suge Knight, he needed me to find somebody to off Suge Knight and he would pay us both $100,000. What? If this is true, why did Diddy need to get info from Suge about Tupac's offing? What did he think Suge Knight knew? Before long, the temporary restraining order was issued, and I was moved to MCIC for my safety and to monitor retaliation against me because that was the only facility with overlapping cameras. While at MCIC, I had several conversations with Defendant Combs, who assured me he was working on getting me free as I assured him one of my people would take care of Suge Knight after he went to board. Okay. In January 2021, SB 132 was enacted by Governor Gavin Newsom. Defendant Combs asked me if I wanted to go to women's prison. I told him they wouldn't do it because I'm falsely labeled as a SCX offender with the lewd, lascivious act against a minor. Defendant Combs told me he was plugged in with Kathleen Allison so he would make that happen. So he could make that happen for me, but I could never speak on what he did to me, and I had to make that happen with Suge Knight. I told him it was good. A few months later, I had a video call with Kathleen Allison, an MCIC warden. Kathleen Allison said they would be approving my transfer to women's prison in spite of the R suffix based on our mutual friend, and she knows I'm transgender because she spoke with Dr. Craybaugh, who graped me at SVSP, but I would owe her a favor. Who is this Kathleen Allison lady? August 26, 2021, I was transferred to women's prison, Central California, women's facility in Chowchilla, California. The first thing I noticed upon something in reception building 503 was that there were no condom dispensers in the day room like there are in every men's facility. I filed a discrimination grievance that night and filed at least 20 more over the 2.5 years I was there. So is Tremaine trying to say that she's an advocate for the prisoners? In late 2021, early 2022, acting warden Mike Palaris called me to the BPH room and forced me to perform. Oh, Lord. To perform on him in exchange for him not sending me back to men's prison. Unbeknown to me, Mike Palaris had been charged with raping a female staff member on CCWF grounds and actually assaulting the warden who was before him. And when she complained, he got her fired and took her job. Months later, Officer Greg Rodriguez somebody else forced her to perform on him in the same BPH room under the same threat of sending me back to men's prison. This person is very unlucky when it comes to rape and sexual assault. Very unlucky. Filing civil suit on this on behalf of myself and Letitia Brown, we were interviewed by attorney Robert Shalfart. Fat. I don't know the name. Days later, we were both thrown in solitary confinement with CCWF claiming Letitia Brown was pregnant by me with twins, and I kicked the babies out of her, and we had some ritualistic burial for them on the yard that had the investigative services unit digging in the yard like goofers. Okay. The following day, we were interviewed by Sergeant Brown regarding our reporting of being sexually assaulted by Mike Palaris, Greg Rodriguez, Sergeant Contreras, and others, with neither of us knowing that Sergeant Brown had, guess what, y'all, actually abused at least 20 incarcerated women and was collecting information to cover up for himself and other staff. Wow, really? The next day, Letitia Brown was moved to CIW under the guise that she was re-pregnant with twins, although Letitia Brown can't get pregnant but has mental health condition that causes her mind, body, and soul to mimic pregnancies. All right, this came out in her trial where she offed a woman, burned her body, took her infant son, and raised him as her own for 8 years. My God. While in solitary confinement, Lieutenant Rodriguez and Lieutenant Ramirez pulled me out to talk to me in a private setting after my grievances got Mike Palaris removed as the warden. They told me they were aware of my friendship with inmate Janetta Ross, who's been trafficked against many CCWF staff, most notably Sergeant Brown. They told me I had friends in high places, including Kathleen Allison, that want me to get closer to M. Ross. I thought it was because we had both been victims who come forward in what had become the CCWF staff sexual abuse scandal and lawsuit. I was released from solitary confinement in May 2023 and maintained communication with inmate Ross. I guess that's what they're saying, inmate Ross, who was still in ASU. A few weeks later, Lieutenant Ramirez came to talk to me on the yard. He told me Kathleen Allison was calling in a favor and we have a mutual friend. They wanted me to get Ross pregnant to help in SB 132 so they could go after Gavin Newsom and they'd help me and Ross get free and take care of us and the baby. Really? Do y'all believe that? I took this as a direct order from the highest ranking member of CDCR. I told Lieutenant Ramirez I was permanent wheelchair and wouldn't be able to move out of SOS, and inmate Ross was going back to C facility. He told me they would move Ross to B facility and do what was asked of me. About a month later, Ross was released to facility B50725. I talked to Correction Officer Bruffett about moving me to 50725. I'm trying to read these numbers. I guess that's what this says. He told me I knew the price I previously paid Correctional Officer Bruffett $5,000 each time to move inmate Pinner and inmate Brown in the room with me, as I wasn't allowed any roommates. I paid Buffett the $5,000 like before. Although I filed multiple grievances on this whole situation because it was scaring me. My whole medical file was manipulated and doctored to move me from 50524 to 50725 with Ross. I went from permanent wheelchair, mobility impaired, to no mobility devices, nor documentation, although I was allowed to keep my wheelchair. In September of 2023, Captain Seeger, Sergeant Brown, Sergeant Contreras, and Warden De La Cruz started an investigation on Ross being pregnant by me and didn't separate versus Sergeant Brown, Sergeant Contreras, and De La Cruz are defendants in sexual abuse lawsuits in which Ross and I are plaintiffs. By this time, Kathleen Allison had disappeared in disgrace for her role in the CDCR forced sterilization scandal. At this time, I'd been on medications that stopped my ability to get HARD or to produce sperm cells for over 5 years. In mid-January, Ross was placed in solitary confinement for false allegations for assaulting me. Days later, Captain Seeger, Sergeant Brown, and Sergeant Contreras, along with inmate Stith and AW inmate Awafi, strategically had inmate Bennett placed in the room with me. Within days, she actually assaulted me and claimed I assaulted her. We both made the same claims, but I was charged. She wasn't. The difference between us is I'm black and was born male, while she's white and was born female. So the female assaulted you, and she's claiming you assaulted her. Okay. Isabel Bennett, defendant Bennett, is from San Diego County, where she accused multiple men of rape, including her ex-boyfriend, who she's incarcerated for stalking after he left her for a San Diego County district attorney. So they put a crazy lady in his cell. Okay. Her cell, I'm sorry. Sergeant Brown and Sergeant Contreras were the investigators of the case and ordered some examiner not to collect any evidence from all the places inmate Bennett licked up CCWF and SART said there were no signs of rape nor even sex because my never entered her. There was no evidence of anything, just her word over mine. Defendant Cecilia Williams said I snatched her in 50725 and actually assaulted her, filing a false police report when AVSS showed she entered my room out of bounds on her own. She changed her story, and when being threatened with filing a false police report and being out of bounds, she didn't receive RVR for either. Sergeant Brown and Sergeant Contreras were the investigators on the case. On AVSS, I was assaulted once by former Officer Jay Haynes, once by inmate Brown, 3 times by inmate Farrer, twice by inmate Fields, once by inmate Stith, once falsely accused inmate Ross. The only one who had assault charges filed against them was inmate Ross, and all of these incidents are documented and captured on AVSS. Defendants Joseph Virgilio, Christopher Darton, Nelson Hunt, and the justice firm were supposed to represent Ross, myself, and several other CCFF victims, but they stopped communicating with clients, stole my unpublished book about defendant Combs and my experience at CCWF, and stole my $402 filing fee for case number 123 CV00974 NODJ. Defendants Joseph Gothel Legal told Ross and I, the justice firm, sold our cases to larger firms, using unethical trickery to get us to sign substitution for attorney agreements. All of this is on recorded calls and emails. Joseph Goethals told representing attorneys he's handling my criminal case pro bono while telling me he's taking it on contingency plan that'll come out of the civil case. On 2/13/24, Ross tested positive for pregnancy and was transferred to CIW with 3 documented enemies where she was falsely imprisoned in the psychiatric inpatient program against her will. Without her consent and documents showing she refused mental health housing and treatment. On 6/22/24, Ross gave birth to her son, Amazing Gift Ross, who was immediately DNA swabbed for a warrant issued by Madera County under my case number, although I wasn't being investigated for a crime against Ross. With Kathleen Allison out of the way, I had no protection. On 4/18/24, I had a DRB hearing in which I wasn't able to present a defense. On 4/19/24, I was the victim of unnecessary excessive use of force when I was brutalized by CCWF staff who kidnapped me and took me to RSVP, the worst prison in CDCR. Wow. On 4/20/24, while out to medical, Correction Officer Rez and Correction Officer Care actually assaulted me at gunpoint, GUN point, while illegally disabling their body cameras. Why are all these people wanting to do this to this transgender person? I had seizure after falling out of wheelchair. When they failed, and how are they doing it? And she's in a wheelchair. When they failed to properly secure me on state vehicle. Aw. They were hoping that she died. Oh boy, on the same state vehicle that no evidence was collected from per PREA policy. I was actually assaulted at G Point by Correction Officer Strada and Correction Officer Marina. Federally PREA policy was violated in all of these instances as neither crime scene was secured, evidence collected, nor separation of accused from accusers. On 7/22/24, while out to court, CCWF staff gave me bottle of alcohol, vodka, and water bottle and date grape DRUGS, trying to off me. I blacked out and don't know what happened to me while in the custody of Sergeant Waters, CO Noah, CO Barrett, but body cam and dash cam cameras should have captured all of this. All of these things are documented, but with so many defendants and events, appointment of counsel is warranted. Plaintiff seeks monetary damages in the amount determined by a judge or jury and temporary restraining order from CDCR. The above is true to my knowledge, and this was on 9/1/24. Okay. Kern Valley State Prison, confidential legal mail. Okay. So when I look at the other documents in the system for this case, and they said there was a discrepancy in the filing because there was no, filing fees attached. And then there was a request put in on 10/17 for a request to proceed without prepayment of filing fees. And then there was a notice of filing report and recommendation by Magistrate Judge Douglas F. McCormick. And then the recommendation that was issued was that the action be transferred out of this district. If the district judge accepts this report and recommendation, the court will send plaintiff a notice of election form with 2 options: transfer to the Eastern District of California, or 2, dismiss this case without prejudice. Failure to return the form will result in dismissal. All right, so I'll read through this for you guys. On September 18th, 2024, plaintiff Tremaine Carroll, a state prisoner proceeding, filed a complaint alleging actual abuse, harassment, and retaliation by various individuals employed by the Central California Women's Facility, CCWF, located in Chowchilla, California. For the reasons stated below, the court recommends that this action be transferred to the Eastern District of California. The complaint asserts a confusing array of allegations. However, the court understands the pertinent allegations as follows. Plaintiff is a disabled transgender woman currently incarcerated at Kern Valley State Prison. Plaintiff was in 1996. Plaintiff was introduced to defendant Sean Diddy Combs. Shortly thereafter, Combs invited plaintiff to hang out in Studio City, where defendant Combs, drugged, and actually assaulted plaintiff. In August 1998, plaintiff was found guilty of aiding grand theft and was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Plaintiff was since transferred between several different California state prisons to serve her sentence, including the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility, RJD, in San Diego, California. In January 2021, plaintiff alleges that Combs contacted her at RJD and told her that if she was promised to never speak on what he did to her, he could arrange for former CDCR Secretary Kathleen Allison to transfer her to women's prison. That's the part I don't get. Why are they concerned? Why would Diddy come back to something that happened in 1996, go all the way to 2021 and say, if you don't talk about what happened to you in the 90s, I'll get you to a women's prison? I don't get that part. Okay, so transferred to a women's prison. Plaintiff agreed to remain silent, and after meeting with Allison, was transferred to CCWF in August 2021. Plaintiff's claims appear to arise from three separate incidents at CCWF. First, April 20, 2024, while out of CCWF for a medical appointment, plaintiff alleges CCWF officers Reyes and Kerr assaulted her. She alleges that following the assault, Reyes and Kerr attempted to secure her on a state vehicle, causing her to fall out of her wheelchair and suffer a seizure. She further asserts that two other CCWF officers, Estrada and Morena, then assaulted her a second time. Second, while out of CCWF for a court appearance, July 22nd, 2024, plaintiff alleges that unnamed CCWF staff members gave her a bottle of alcohol in a water bottle that contained a date grape, drugs. Plaintiff states that she then blacked out and does not recall what happened, but she speculates that CCWF Sergeant Waters and Officers Moa and Barrett's body-worn cameras likely captured misconduct while she was unconscious. Finally, plaintiff alleges she was falsely accused of impregnating and actually assaulting other inmates while incarcerated at CCWF, alleging plaintiff thrown in solitary confinement due to claims that inmate Letitia Brown was pregnant by plaintiff with twins. Alleging an investigation was opened in September 2023 to determine whether inmate Janetta Ross was pregnant by plaintiff. Alleging inmate Isabel Brown claimed plaintiff actually assaulted her. Seemingly as a result of these accusations, plaintiff was transferred to KVSP. Plaintiff alleges that during her transfer, she was the victim of unnecessary excessive use of force and was brutalized by CCWF staff who kidnapped her and took her to KVSP. Plaintiff brings claims against many defendants for violations of her constitutional rights under the 1st, 4th, 8th, and 14th Amendments, seemingly in connection to the incidents at CCWF described above. So basically it's saying the transfer to the Eastern District of California is warranted for the convenience of the parties and in the interest of justice. The events that give rise to plaintiff's claims occurred at CCWF in Madera County, California. Madera County is located within the Eastern District of California rather than the Central District of California. Moreover, while it is not clear where all defendants reside, it appears unlikely that most defendants reside in the Central District of California. Indeed, it appears likely that the witnesses and parties were with precipient knowledge of the relevant facts reside near CCWF. Therefore, the court finds the Eastern District of California is the most convenient forum for this action. It is therefore recommended that the interest of justice, this action be transferred out of this district. If the district judge accepts this report and recommendation, the court will send plaintiff a notice of election form with two options: transfer to the Eastern District of California or dismiss this case without prejudice. Failure to return the form will result in dismissal. And this is Judge Douglas McCormick. This is very, 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 very interesting. I'm kind of fooling around with Pacer where you can pull up the different documents, case documents, court documents, or what have you. And when I typed in Sean Combs' name, all of his, lawsuits popped up. And for some reason, the Tremaine Carroll lawsuit popped up, kind of caught my attention. And then when I typed in his name, I recognized that face and didn't realize that this woman, and sorry if I called her and him at any point in time, please forgive me. This woman who was accused of raping a cellmate and was, as a result of that, transferred back to a male facility. I had no clue that she was connected to Diddy in one way, shape, or form. But let me know what you think about this, and if you think this is an interesting story, let me know if you already heard about this and her connection to P. Diddy. This is just one of many, many lawsuits against P. Diddy, as y'all know. And this lawsuit was filed on 9/18/2024. All right, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you don't miss any of my videos. Bye.